Bushiroad just dropped the news for the Bushiroad English conference coming out in August. So let's talk about the fighters rule. There's a lot of things going on right now. I'm playing through the BSF season and I'm not having a great time at the moment. You know, the decks are still the same and something needs to happen. And let's talk about it, right? But let's remind ourselves, I guess, what criterias need to be met for certain things to be hit on the fighters rule. So if you guys haven't watched my previous ban list, which was the one for Worlds, I explained it through, but I'll explain it through again. But essentially, there are a few criterias that fits cards, well, that cards need to meet to be able to be hit or restricted in any way, right? So the first one being, it reduces the variety of clans or nations used in a tournament, i.e. if it's completely busted and it's taking up, like, you know, majority of the player distribution and the decks that they're bringing, then it's obviously a problem, right? Lengthens time needed for a game to extreme. So if it's dragging on games into essentially timeout, or it, like the sequence of events is taking too long, then the card probably needs to get hit. If it affects any future cards and the development of those cards, then it probably needs to be hit as well as if it's unintended for the card to work in a certain way, then it probably needs to be addressed. And then obviously keeping in mind the minimum number of restrictions is, I guess, welcomed in this case. But to be honest, I think that last one doesn't really make sense, right? Because when things happen, things need to happen, right? So let's talk about standard, right? Standard is in a weird position now in English where we do not have the first of the two ban lists that JP had. So obviously the one where it hit Vanguard to 1, Leather Dress got hit, Rezel got hit, and you know, let's do it, right? To be honest, holistically, English should just realign the whole ban list to be the same as Japanese, no matter what, right? Even if the sets are, you know, a bit apart from each other, I think the cards that are being hit should be hit the same time as the Japanese side. That's just my opinion, right? So let's talk about it. Vanguard to 1. Vanguard is in a completely busted deck at the moment. Buff Sagra, literally every single team should be bringing it for Summer Fest. If you're not, you're throwing. The deck is so strong, and Vanguard just amps the power on that deck ridiculously. Being able to give plus 10 to the front row and multiple of them on the board, you're essentially giving plus 30 to the front row as early as turn 3. So if you have triple Vanguard on triple Trick Moon, then your opponent's just, you know, gonna pack it up and move to the next round. That's just how it is, right? So it's not very fun. It makes Buff Saga really, really strong, which means that it's the most used deck in the format. Needs to get hit. The second one is Sogawan and Rezel. So this one is a little bit ambiguous. I think the hit for it is maybe not needed, although I think by the way that standard is evolving, I think no matter what, the English ban list will not differ from the Japanese side. It's just more so when it will be applied. So these hits will happen. But Sir Gawain, obviously with the Mississich Eagle Bird thing, being able to have a fat hand and guard restrict on rear guard is just pretty busted. But yeah, anyways, I think being able to give Razel a really strong early game with Tayfot Wisdom and Sir Gawain, and then being able to just farm a billion hand across the game, it's just really, really strong. Shamnet to 2, this one doesn't really hit the deck very badly. It just hits the consistency slightly, but obviously still can't match up to Buff Saga because it's a tier 0 deck essentially. Unrestricting, well, not really unrestricting, but letting 2 copies of the Gandiva grade 3 Sturdna and Izasawa to 2. I think these are welcome, makes the decks able to play some of the core cards that the decks I guess have, right? Moving on to the next slide, let's talk about even further hits. So Balsagra and Drag Vader, this is definitely welcome. I think there's many times where I've tested, I've played, and I hit Drag Vader on Balsagra and just blow my opponent out of the game. It's just not fun. Drag Vader in its entirety is an insane overtrigger, along with Elder Breath. I think both of them are pretty much game warping at any point in the game, not just defensively with the 100 mil, but the additional effect is just extremely strong in comparison to something like the Keta Sanctuary one, right? Like no one plays that. But I think buff Sagra, choice restricting with Dragveda is needed. The deck sure will play like blue OT or red OT, which is fine. And I think not being able to obtain a triple drive afterwards just means that you can at least eat through the hand. But yeah, again, it's just JP hits that should be aligned in the English side as well. Okay. Savoyed and Tectian choice restrict. So this is hitting the consistency of Eleglemma. The deck is really strong already with 4 Mo Flash, which next to it, Mo Flash goes to 1. And I think Mo Flash to 1 hits the deck really well already. And then just tacking on the Tectian and Salvo just completely kills the deck. And I think it's, to be honest, very welcome because Bat is a very unfun deck. You literally high roll, you get 15 orders with Mo Flash, with Tectian being able to get multiple orders across the first 3 turns, and your opponent literally can't do anything, can't heal Guardian anything to bump power, because it obviously doesn't exist in Standard, and it's just really unfun, right? You just get blown out of the water, and even as a player, right? If you don't blow your opponent out of the water, like they just come back, stabilize, and just beat you, like, and you just feel completely useless, right? So let's just get rid of the deck, and you know, these are the 2 hits to do it. Defending Raw to 1, I think defending Raw to 1 is, yeah, I think it's a pretty good hit, especially for Shiranui, but also a lot of decks do run defending Raw itself. I think the Blitz order is really strong. It essentially converts any of your 15Ks into a recurable 15K. So you drop a 15K, you defending Raw it, so you get plus 5K extra shield value on any card that you use to guard, which is really strong. It also offers for protection on rear guard, so if you intercept like with your Yugma Shard and you defensing Raw the Yugma Shard, then you get it back into hand, so there's a defensive capability as well. I think the interactions are really cool, and I think defensing Raw is a very cool Blitz order, but being able to hit to 1 just tames down a lot of the defensive mechanics, or the defensive, I guess, how defensive decks kind of operate in this format at the moment. And Belg completely restricted. This one is actually future-proofing. I think Nanaclear or Ruka's new Stoicheia unit is probably going to use binding for effects. And yeah, I think it's just future-proofing for a deck or an archetype that is coming out later in the future. I didn't put it in the slides, but the 2 Zorga orders being Zorga restricted should implement that as well as the Black Wing, White Wings only accessible for Vanguards with Celestial. I think that should be implemented as well. Just realign everything as standard, right? As standard should just realign with everything that JP is doing at the same time, right? No matter at what stage the sets are being released, I think it should just be as it is, right? Because JP would have had the data, the results already prior to us getting the stuff, and how impactful stuff is, just tame it down straight away and just get it done, right? So that's standard. Let's talk about premium. This is where the West has control, and I think the West needs to make some changes so that the later half of BSF is a bit more enjoyable, all right? And the first one is which of Orange's Valencia ban? I think this card is ridiculous. We saw Ned absolutely clap opponents. He clapped me twice at Worlds, and he probably clapped like a bunch of other people with this card in his deck. And it essentially allows you to 1-turn kill, which is not something that Vanguard is out there to be doing, right? There is an argument, right? You should just ban overtriggers, and sure, you know, banning overtriggers does stop, you know, unfun interactions like this, because at least then, you know, you stack 3 crits, it's like 3 crit, and sure, you can't Sentinel, but it's not 100 mil, so it doesn't really matter. You can still G-guard and stuff like that. So there's an argument there, but I think Valencia, a card in itself, is really strong, being able to just bottom deck cards and stack as you will, right? And it really just makes the game really unfun for your opponent. They just sit there, they can't really do anything, and yep, I just go OTK'd from 0 to 6, 1 to 6, or whatever it is, right? It's just really, really unfair. So yeah, Witch of Oranges, gone. And yeah, this thing. Shout, my boy, who got me 3rd at Worlds, 100% should get banned. I think this card is, it's fun. It's fun when you use it. I think the card design is very cool. You know, you're playing like a little mini game, but the intention of the card is not great, right? People would have seen me on stream looping opponents out, taking like 15-20 minute turns. It's just not fun, right? Dragging the game out to the extremes, pretty much into time, nearly time, and then your opponent literally can't interact with anything during the loop. They just sit there, yep, reveal, 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 draw, add it to hand, put it in soul, add it to hand, put it in soul, and they have no way out of it. It's just really, really degenerate. I think you just ban this card. This card is the enabler of it. Just get rid of it and call it a day, right? And that is Shout. So the next card we're going to talk about is Hellheart 8, and it didn't show very many results, but I think everyone's got it on, you know, on their radar. I think the card is really strong. Being able to have access to 4 jelly beans, 4 heals, and 4 of the VPR, you essentially have 12 G Guardians in your deck, or access to 12 copies of G Guardians in your deck. And then this, you just stride this and then you cripple your opponent or you kill them straight up. And it can't be stopped by Honolulu because you run stuff like Tier to be able to counter charge. And it's just really unfun. Ridiculous numbers with crit because you're playing Rising Nova. Yeah, loops, just kill them, right? Not cool in this game. And I think there's just many other ways that, you know, Spike Brothers can capitalize on a win anyways. Instead of trying to win all on, you know, as quickly as possible on one turn, it just makes a really, really unfun experience for any player playing Premium, really. Even for me, right? And I've been playing this game for about 13 years, so yeah. Anyhow, the next one is Celtus winner and the D Series Din Drain. We did see this at BSF Long Beach, where you essentially create an attack loop, and the attack loop allows for one of 2 things. So actually one of 3 things. First of all, infinite attacks, right? No matter what power it is, it's infinite attacks. Second of all, infinite power. So if you combo this with Azultus, which is the D Series Ezul card, so essentially you give your Vanguard the passive effect to give your front row +5, and then you keep looping that, right? If your opponent doesn't have a Honolulu, you just keep looping, because Din Drain puts it to the bottom, puts it to the bottom, puts it to the bottom, and then you keep looping around. You essentially get to infinite power, yeah? And then the third one is using a grade 2, which allows you to Soul Blast, bottom deck a card, and then your opponent draws 1. And it's a force draw 1, no matter if you bottom deck or not. So you, again, go through this attack loop, get to the grade 2, you Soul Blast 1, and then you force your opponent to draw, and then you have the Drilling Angel to put a card from your drop into Soul, and then away you go, right? You just keep going in this loop of forcing your opponent to draw. Unfun experience, right? And this can be done essentially as early as to second stride, because you have access to 4 heals and 4 of the VPR. So yeah, ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, get this out as well. There is a discussion whether you put Besok in here as well, but Besok is a finite loop in comparison to this. But even then, you might as well just choice restrict the 3. So at least these 2 for now, because it stops infinite loops. And then actually there is one more that I'm gonna add onto this list, which I did not include in my previous ban video, and that is choice restricting Ichikishima and Popo. So the reason for this is because in combination with each other, it makes unguardable attacks that can only be guarded by Elementaria Sanctitude or Blitz Orders. And you can only ever use 1 Blitz Order at a turn. And if you hit your red OT on a Popo with a billion crit, it attacks twice. So you don't have 2 Blitz Orders that become perfect guards, which is a problem, right? Essentially, Ichikishima, for those who don't know, just stops zeros and G guards, and then Popo says you can only call grade zeros from hand, which means you can't call anything at all. And that just, yeah, you literally can't do anything. There are cards in the main phase where you can trigger check, and if you have a crit, you stack on the Popo, and then, yeah, away you go, right? You declare battle phase, you hit your opponent for 7 crit, which is not guardable. Yeah, really, really degenerate, because you have cards that can deck thin your deck to the bottom of the deck, and then you have stuff like, you know, Bracing Angel Ladder to stop these units from, you know, being killed. So being able to have 2 unguardable attacks, potentially 3 if you hit the red OT, is just really, really strong. So yeah, creates a very, very unfun experience, and I think the interaction between these 2 cards were not intended, I don't think. But yeah, let's get rid of it. It's a nice deck, I guess. This is probably like the lower end, because then people will start to play this, and I think, you know, showing up with newer decks is cool, but I think, yeah, it's just really, really degenerate. Just get rid of it. So yeah, that's pretty much all of the premium hits for this time, I think. And then, yeah, let's just summarize. These are just the premium hits. We'll talk about the standard hits in a sec. So cards to be banned: Valencia, Shout, and Hellheart 8. And then the choice restriction between the GB8 for golds and Dindrain, the D series Dindrain, as well as Ichikishima and Popo. And then the standard hits are pretty much, let's just align standard to be like JP, no matter when they reveal the ban list, every quarter, whatever it is, just align it, because, you know, JP is keeping standard intact. You know, JP is doing a great job of reinforcing standard, making standard the most controlled format it can. And, you know, if things get out of hand, like Buff Sagra, they hit it, right? I think the last time they emergency hit anything was like Bendy in V, and they did a good job, you know? So let's just follow JP, let's get those hits going, and then obviously, you know, Buff Sagra, right? Buff Sagra, Eleglemma, let's get rid of them. Let's get some new fresh decks coming in. I know that in set 9 there's like Heart Luru, Minerva coming out. Set 10 there's Jujul Magnus, Nana Clear. There's a lot of good stuff coming on, and Virgil is coming out for English as well in August. So more room for more variety, and I think that's very, very welcome in the English format. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this ban list video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, pop a like, comment down below what you guys think of the hits that I proposed, and I think it's pretty good. There probably is some more like premium hits to hit, but at least from the surface level, this is as bare minimum as it gets. If you guys haven't already, click that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.